Genesis chapter 8, verses 6 and 7. In the prior few verses, we have focused on the state of the water as it's been receding from the earth. Now we're going to shift our attention back to Noah. We'll start with verse 6, and then we'll wrap up with verse 7. Ke egineta, meta tesseraconta hemeras, and neoixen noe tain therida, tes kibotu, hein epoiesen. And we'll come back again and finish that. So we start with the kai egineta here, a very common way in which a discourse moves the ball forward, so to speak. And it is likely translating the vayahi here, which is also basically the same kind of discourse marker in Hebrew. And that form of egineta is, of course, third singular aorist middle indicative. Now, sometimes you'll see this as egineta de, but in this case, it's ke egineta. And now we're going to have a time. So it's something like, and it happened that, something to that effect. Meta, and so that's after, and this can be a time frame. So it's after what we saw in 8:5. So we're adding some time here. And the time frame is tesseraconta, which is 40, and it's days here. So we left off in the prior verse in essentially month 10, although the Septuagint, if you recall, sort of said, okay, the first day of the next month, month 11. Either way, we add 40 days. We're in the 12th month, so almost a year from when this all started. Then we have the main verb here, which is anoigo, and in this form, you see a gamma plus a sigma contract there. You got a lengthening on the front end, some other kind of stuff going on. Anoigo does some weird things when it changes its spelling. It's just a simple third singular aorist active indicative. That means to open. Subject here is Noah, so Noah opened, and what did he open? The theris, the window of the ark, the tes kibotu. Now, I'll mention that some later scribes changed therida to theron, which is door, although the Hebrew is actually window there, so it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure why they would have done that. Maybe just confusing what that word is. And it's the window of the ark. And then we have a callback to Genesis 6:16, which, referring back to the window he had made, so to speak. So just a reference to when Noah was constructing the ark, God said, build it such and such dimensions and do it with pitch all the way up to this level. And he created this entryway or this window in the ark. So now we're waiting for, okay, why does he open the window? What's he doing here? And that's where verse 7 picks up. So let's read it. Ke apestelin tan koraka to idain e kekopaken ta hudor. Ke exelthon uk epestrepsin heos to zeranthenai ta hudor apotes ges. So there's a lot of verbs here, but some really, really interesting stuff that we can get into. This first main verb here is a third singular aorist active indicative. It's from apostello. You probably recognize that. The subject here is still Noah. So Noah sent forth. And what did he send? Tan korako. That is the word for raven, one of the birds he apparently would have had on the ark. And why does he send out a raven through that window? Well, you have a 2 plus idain here. Now, idain, this is going to be the aorist active infinitive form of horao, which is the word for to see. And anytime you have an infinitive with just a genitive article without, say, a preposition or something like that, this is typically going to be a purpose infinitive. So it's the idea is to express he sent out this raven in order to see. Or that he might see, referring to Noah. And he's going to see if, so he's going to sort of test the waters, literally. Kekopaken, and this is from kopazo, and you can see that kappa, you see reduplication here. It's a third singular perfect active indicative. This means to cease, sometimes to come to rest, something like that. Tahudor, secondary subject here, so to see if the water had ceased or has come to rest or something like that. Now, if you look up Genesis 8:7 in an English Bible drawn from the Hebrew text, you will not find this line, this entire line. This purpose clause is not there. Origen and scribes after him, apparently in their day, it was not in the Hebrew they had. And so this line being present in their Greek text, but not in the Hebrew they had, they marked this with the abaloi, either sometimes on the left, maybe on the right, sometimes both, to say, hey, this is in the Greek, but it's not the Hebrew. But you will not find it at all in the Hebrew tradition. Perhaps an early, maybe the original translator of the Greek of Genesis, or maybe some other scribe, don't know. But apparently they're trying to explain this whole thing as to why the raven was sent out. Typically the Genesis translator doesn't do this kind of thing, but you can probably see the rationale for it. So kind of interesting stuff there. Let's move on. What's this raven doing? We have a participle here, exelthone, after the chi. That's from ex erchomai. It's a nominative singular masculine, aorist active participle here, and it's going to be adverbial, modifying the main verb. So it's something like after going out or having gone out, that is from the ark. Then you have hupastrepsin, which is from hupastrepho. This is a third singular aorist active indicative. It did not return. Now, that phrasing, especially the double use of this aorist for the participle plus an aorist main verb, very strongly emphasizing perfectivity, is markedly different, in my opinion, from what we find in the Masoretic. In the Masoretic, you have a different kind of syntax that typically is translated that the bird kept flying back and forth. There's a sense in which Noah sent out the raven, checks things out, can't find a place to land, comes back. Does it again over and over again. Whereas the Greek translator, maybe because he's misunderstanding the Hebrew or just had a different mental framework for what's happening, he basically portrays it as a one-time thing. So having gone out, he did not return until the end of a certain testing period. There's not this sense of going out and coming back, going out and coming back. In my opinion, the sort of perfectivity there. So interesting interpretation. When does he finally return? When does he finally hupastrepho? Heos, that is until. Heos typically is followed by a genitive to zerantheni. This is from zerino. This is another infinitive. It's an aorist passive infinitive, and that means to dry up. And then the accusative hudor here is going to be the pseudo-subject of this infinitive. So until the water had dried up, apates geis, from the earth. And then, according to the Genesis translator here, then the raven hupastrepho's. So a slightly different way to frame it. But so I don't know, interesting stuff here when you compare this to at least the Hebrew as we have it today, both in terms of this line being not there in the Hebrew and then a different interpretation here. So at this point, the dry land is officially starting to appear. You almost have this reset of the creation account where now you have a clear distinction between dry land and the water, whereas the water had been flooded in this total sense. So that ends Genesis 8, 6 through 7.